We've all heard the great benefits of a clutter-free home, but when even the best organizers in the world, like Marie Kondo, say they give up on tidying after having kids, is there any hope for the rest of us? So as a mom of two myself, who's been on a minimalism journey lately, I set out to find if her methods still apply to families with children. So I recently read Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changingg Magic of Tidying Up. Then these are 10 lessons that I learned that might be helpful to you too if you want a clutter-free home. Special tidying versus daily tidying. Now, in her book, Marie Kondo actually uses tidying and decluttering, these two words kind of interchangeably. She calls this special event of tidying or decluttering this once-in-a-lifetime big declutter that you won't have to do again. And this one I felt like was a bit of a yes and no for me as a mom. She does mention that tidying is a lifelong habit, so it's something we will have to do over and over again, just kind of getting into the habit of putting things where they belong in our home and creating a habit around that. Because even after that big purge, you need to do the daily tidying to keep your environment clutter-free. But she does mention, I never tidy my room, it's already tidy. And it made me wonder what her perspective might be now that she has had kids, because yes, it is much easier to keep your room tidy when you don't have kids who go rummaging through drawers. If you have kids yourself, you probably know what I mean. You tidy and then 5 minutes later it's already mumbled up. And this has been quite talked about lately because Marie Kondo came out after she had 3 children and she said that she gave up on tidying. And this made all the headlines, people thinking, oh, that's it, Marie Kondo is one of us. But I'm willing to bet that her version of not tidy is still pretty tidy compared to, a really cluttered home. I think what she did mean to say is that she would rather spend more intentional time with her kids rather than focusing on tidying her home, which I think a lot of us parents want to do as well. So she says, of course, on some days, encouraging my children to tidy can feel like a losing battle. Rather than getting frustrated with them or attempting to tidy up after them throughout the day, I remind myself that I'd rather spend my energy on them. Sometimes I'll wait until they're asleep to clean up in one shot. It usually only takes 10 minutes or so because everything we own already has a designated home. This is what the KonMari way is for me these days, a perfectly imperfect life. I think this really goes to show that even though she does say tidying and decluttering has become a lot harder with kids, it doesn't mean her home is a complete mess, and she still has systems in place. She still has those habits. The one thing I took from this is that yes, you do that one big declutter, that special event of tidying, but you also need to do that daily habits to maintain it. Now, going along with this, she also mentions the mountain pile. You know, how when you declutter, you take everything out from your wardrobe, put it on a bed in a big mountain, and that's supposed to shock you and make you not revert back to old patterns. Tidy a little a day and you'll be tidying forever, is what she says. So her method in this book is more about doing that one big event, right? And then that's it, you're never gonna have clutter in your home again. Everybody is different, everybody has different methods that work for them. But for myself, as a busy mom of 2, I have found that doing small declutters actually helped me get that declutter done. If I had waited to have the time to do that one big declutter, I'm afraid that time might have never come. I started massively decluttering our home about 2 years ago. And yes, we had some weekends where I put maybe 2 hours or 3 hours into decluttering, but most of my decluttering was actually done in 15-20 minute increments. So I would do a drawer here and there, tackle a kitchen cupboard. All of those little tasks, actually I found they add up. And to me, taking out the big mountain pile of clothes on my bed was probably one of the most daunting things I could do. And I have tried it in the past, but when you take it all out, it feels really overwhelming. And then when you add 2 kids into the mix and they come and pull everything out of the bed and they ruin your keep and donate piles, it's just a stressful experience that I found it didn't really work the best for me. I get where Marie is coming from, and I think it is important to see how much we have in each category. And I absolutely love her book. And this is one of those things that I found worked a little bit differently for me. Say thank you to items before letting them go. This was a practice I never did before, but it was really eye-opening. And she mentions how having gratitude for those things makes decluttering easier, and it makes us feel less guilty about parting with all of those things. I remember a few years ago when we were in the depths of infertility, struggling to get pregnant and going through multiple baby losses. I actually used shopping quite a bit as a coping mechanism. I would go out to the shops and buy a cute outfit or buy new makeup or anything that would make me feel better in the moment, because it does give you that dopamine hit, and it really worked at the time. Was it the best way to cope with my feelings? Probably not, but it was just what I did during that time. And so when it came to decluttering, I felt really bad about getting rid of some of those items. But doing this practice really helped me realize that, I can say thank you to this item because it did serve me in a way during that time in my life. It did bring me a bit of joy. It did make me feel better putting on that rainbow jumper that I bought, thinking one day I'll have a rainbow baby. So I really loved this thing from her book, just saying thank you to the items because in one way or another, they probably served a purpose at one time in our life. Doesn't mean we need to keep them forever, but they might have brought us joy at one point in time. More storage is not the answer, because the goal of decluttering is to own less and not to just hide things in storage containers. She says that using lots of storage items can be just shoving things out of sight. And it made me realize that this is one area where I think I was very good at. I was very good at shoving my clutter in cupboards, in drawers, in storage containers, but it was still there. It was still stressing me out. It was still overwhelming when I opened wardrobes. And I always felt like what I was missing is just the perfect storage system. And once I decluttered, I realized actually, no, I didn't need all of those storage items. And I actually had quite a lot of empty containers that I didn't have a use for anymore, because most of the time it's not the storage items or the organizers that we need. We simply need less stuff. Decluttering isn't about throwing things away. It's about choosing what to keep. And I really loved this perspective change because it's kind of a bit of reverse decluttering, isn't it? When we focus on the things that we keep and we value and, bring something to our life, rather than focusing on the negative and the things that we might be losing. Oftentimes, the things we declutter are actually items we didn't need anyway. They're items that are not gonna have a negative impact on our life if they're out of our home. Especially when it came to my wardrobe, I really enjoyed doing this, just focusing on the items I love and wear a ton and make me feel good, rather than focusing on those that I'm letting go and I'm having a hard time because maybe it has a bit of sentimental value. But if it's something I don't wear, I don't need, I don't use, maybe I don't even like on myself anymore, then it's simply time to let it go. Discard books you've read halfway. This was a really interesting mindset shift for me because I did keep a lot of books that I had started, maybe read a few chapters, or maybe I bought but never even started. But somehow I was having a hard time letting go of them because I always thought, well, maybe one day I will want to pick this book up and finish it. You know how sometimes we have this need for closure on something like a book. But she says you already took what you needed from the book. She says, take the book in your hands, see how it makes you feel, and decide whether it moves you or not. How we need to keep the books that make us feel happy to see them on our shelves. And she also kind of gives you permission to not finish the books that you've abandoned, because sometimes one book's purpose can be simply to be read halfway. And it can be hard to let go of that feeling. But she says maybe the book's purpose was to teach you that you didn't need it. And that really stood out to me, and it helped me declutter more of the books that either I wasn't enjoying and I just kept because I felt guilty. In reality, if I hadn't read it by now and I wasn't excited to pick it up, then what was the point to keep it? Tidy by category, not by location. Now, I actually like to go room by room and just tackle little areas at a time, but she has her famous organizing system so that instead of decluttering room by room, she goes by category. And she has 5 major categories that you might have heard before: clothes, books, papers, kimono, which are miscellaneous items, and I'm assuming toys go in this item as well, and sentimental items. I like keeping sentimental items last too because those are usually the hardest to part with. What I do like to do in each category is to kind of break it down into smaller categories as well, because again, taking all of my clothes out can feel like a massive task that I'm very likely to abandon and just pop everything back in my wardrobe without really decluttering much. Paper clutter clutter is unnecessary. And this helped me declutter a lot of my papers actually, because I realized most of them I do not need to keep. Yes, there are a few that are important, some maybe warranties, some maybe things for the house, mortgage, things that you actually need to keep, but a lot of them are not essential and they can simply be discarded. Your home should spark joy, not stress. And this was something I used to feel in the past, just so stressed and overwhelmed by my home, feeling like I was just failing and just feeling behind on things, like I couldn't keep on top of it. And a lot of times it's not because we're lazy, it's not because we're not doing like tidying and organizing and cleaning our homes, but sometimes it's just so much stuff in there that's stressful that it's just hard to keep up with. It's not realistic for us to have to manage that much stuff in our homes. And this also relates to the fact that a cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mindset. And oftentimes our home is a reflection of our mind. The joy we seek in stuff is usually found elsewhere. I mean, making a purchase and buying lots of things for our home or clothes or toys can actually give us that dopamine rush, can make us feel good in the moment, but usually in the long run, those are not the things that actually serve us. And the things that bring the most joy by a lot of experiments that have been done out there is experiences, relationships, and personal growth. These are things that bring a lot more joy than any object could. So thanks for that, Marie. I got a lot of useful things from your book. I did another video on the Atomic Habits book that I think you will enjoy. So that will be linked here, and I will see you in the next video.